back, everybody. So it's our last PundIT Show of the day. We've had an entire day of apparent startup and innovation. Everyone's been in there. Everyone's going to come in here and they're going to be watching us and they're going to be listening to you guys to hear your expert punditry. So well, we've got about 10, 15 minutes or so, 15, 20 minutes. And what I would like to know is, if you've probably seen quite a lot of the stuff that's been going on in today. We'll start with you, Robert. We know you're an opinionated guy, a great pundit. What's kind of turned you on in there today, if anything has, first of all? Let's go from there.
I would say it's the ones that work on the plumbing, that really are looking at the underlying values where they can create value and solve problems from these companies. Like the winners, one was Redeem, and they're sitting there really trying to figure out how they can have voucher processes work much more easily for attractions and tours. It's great.
And you seem quite pleased about it. It's interesting you talk about the plumbing,
yes,
as opposed to other things.
Yes, I mean there are some that I look at as really superficial. There were a number of groups who are basically looking at hotel issues of maybe inconsistencies with hotel revenue management practices and things like that. And that was their entire business model, was basically, we can squeeze some consumer value by preying on stupid revenue managers at hotels, right? That's not a great business model. And again, once you try to scale it and it becomes a problem, there are going to be a lot of people who try to shut you down because you're doing something that probably should be fixed by the industry anyway, that's relatively simple to fix.
Okay, so Max, you've been in there today. What excited you? Did you come away thinking, I'm going to spend some money with these guys?
You know, I don't often say Robert is right, but the plumbing.
First.
An overlooked company, ConnectPay. It is a fundamental problem in this business that banks extend you the right to do business, and they can kill your business by withholding payments if they think you've gotten too risky. ConnectPay, by getting in there and actually creating essentially a marketplace of payments, remove the risk and create a really slick solution where companies that are currently at the mercy of banks can just be controlling their own business.
Okay.
It's not sexy, it's not, oh, I've created the next trip planning solution. But it's a fundamental problem in the business where there's billions of dollars frozen up because of something nobody has solved yet.
Interestingly then, why is it that we don't see more of those types of companies coming along to things like this? Is it because it isn't sexy and the startup world is driven by a need to adhere to some type of culture, possibly?
There has been a bias towards looking at, all the B2C efforts, all the social efforts get all the valuation.
Yeah.
And then you try to be me too. You're not fundamentally attacking a hard problem or attacking a business model.
Right.
ConnectPay is attacking a business model head on. There's opportunity. If you had shown me another trip planning company, I would have slit my wrists and not come tonight.
Okay. Well, we're glad you're here.
Let's do it. Don't show them a trip planning company.
Yeah, indeed. So, I mean, Trevor, do you prefer the... I'm trying to phrase this in the right way, but do you prefer the sexy or do you prefer the functional?
Well, I think the functional stuff is sexy.
Well, hey, okay, tell us why.
I mean, it's your point. For so many years we've seen travel inspiration and trip planning, businesses that are claiming to reinvent inspiration, and I like seeing payment services and fulfillment services, the things that really make businesses run.
Yeah.
It feels to me like there are more and more of those types of what I would consider sexy businesses coming here, and less of the what Robert would call the superficial businesses that are presenting.
Okay, sorry, go.
No, another one was Uplift, which won an award. And Brian and the folks there have really done this business on payments over time. That's a big thing. You want to buy a package and it's prepaid, and it's huge, but it helps additional people travel, and they're using AI very intelligently to figure out, here's the credit score that they have, but actually the line should be going like this, and identifying individuals who may not have the greatest credit scores, but are really low risk at paying off these vacations. So all of a sudden they can give them a relatively low interest rate loan to go take these trips. And it's good for everyone. It's good for the tour operators and the brands, it's good for the travelers, and they make some money in the process. Uplift makes money in the process.
Do you sense though, I mean, well, Max, do you sense though that this, you said AI, right? Mm-hmm. So that it's a phrase that is being used because it sounds sexy. I'm not saying that AI is the new trip planning, but it's a word or a couple of letters, to be correct, that are used a lot because perhaps it makes a company sound like they're more with it, that they're clever, that they've got brilliant technology, when actually they're using it in the wrong context, possibly.
Oh, absolutely. And the classic example is chess playing programs are not AI. Chess playing programs are a bunch of rules with lots of recorded prior games and end games and beginning games. People make the confusion, and because it's sexy, you come and say, oh, I have a big data AI cryptocurrency trip planning solution.
Which uses blockchain.
There you go, they use blockchain.
It should win, right?
I just, kill me now, right? On the other hand, there are interesting new technologies in travel, but not the cryptocurrency, the smart contracts, the Ethereum virtual machines that allow you to actually have verified performance of contracts across parties.
Okay.
That could revolutionize travel.
Okay.
The rest is just...
Well, tell us, why would that revolutionize? Anyone who says this is going to revolutionize travel needs to explain why.
Because one of the greatest inefficiencies in our system is the very complex chain from the inventory holder, let's say hotel or experience provider, to a wholesaler, a bad bank, or just a wholesaler of experiences, to a retailer who probably also has an API, and there's a forward distributor, so now you have 4 levels of contract compliance. If you do this by hand, you can't ever reconcile it. They don't know what they sold each other, most of the time. If you do it with something like Ethereum, it either did happen or it didn't happen, and the machine tells you, and you can't deny that you sold it. One of the biggest problems in Latin America, as you know, is hotels that say, that guy didn't stay with me, I don't owe you the commission.
Right.
But if
a problem that needs solving, in other words.
That needs solving.
Yeah. Robert, you were going to say?
Well, no, I was going to say it impacts corporate travel, because you look at a lot of the structure of travel management companies and GDSs and things like that that are built on this chain, and it's not just the hotel owner, it's the hotel owner to maybe the hotel management company, to the brand, to the, going to the GDS all the way through. And if you can have a contract that says, here's the group that they're in the office building that's right above us because the hotel's in that building, and we can have a contract that says, here are the rates, here's the inventory, here's how it goes. You don't really need all those parties to do it, and you may be able to do the settlement very efficiently if you can validate, here's who it's with, here are the terms, everything works, and
okay, so, I mean, Trevor, it does beg the obvious question, therefore, is why aren't we seeing lots of companies picking up on real problems and then getting lots of investment to really take this to the scale of which you two have just been discussing, because it covers so many different parts of the industry. So why do you sense we're not seeing more of those types of businesses then?
I think, well, first off, I think we are seeing more of those types of businesses than the sort of superficial stuff. So I think that's a big step forward in the types of businesses that are coming out. The types of businesses that young entrepreneurs are looking to start up, they are more interested in solving some of these problems. Now, I think some of these problems are so complex, it becomes very difficult to pitch it in one of in a few minutes.
Right.
So
okay.
I think that is probably a key reason why you don't see more of them, or some of those businesses may be tackling some of those complex problems, but they really only have the time here to talk about a very narrow segment of what they do.
Give you an example for tomorrow. I'm looking forward to SIFT Science.
Yep.
Because they actually have science. There is
proper
an
science.
Interesting, real science. Science you go to school for. And that will be an interesting, it will be interesting to see how the pitch comes across, because that's one of those that it's not entirely easy to explain that you're using machine learning to have predictive analytics on fraud. Meh, it's a great thing.
Right.
And that's why I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about hospitality. I mean, and you guys are hospitality specialists, but I mean, what other segments of the industry do you think are, I don't like to say ripe for disruption, but I'm going to, because it's an easy one to get you to respond to. So we'll start with you, Rob. I mean, what do you, other things are ready for other solutions that are valuable, like the one we've just discussed, do you think?
Certainly the activities space. I think the industry in general, and the reason everyone talks about hospitality and hotels, it's a highly fragmented market. And so with activities, that's even more fragmented, so it's hard to get your arms around. It's a very large, popular thing, and activities aren't just when people travel. They do things at home, in destination where they live as well. So it's a very, very large market opportunity. But again, a lot of that isn't very sexy. It's a lot of hard work. And for individuals outside the industry, it's sometimes difficult. You know, they'll superficially say, I think Rod Cuthbert had the great blog post that the things not to say at the Innovation Summit. But a lot of them are true. Oh, I was backpacking, did this. Well, yes, I'm a casual traveler. I came up with an idea. You really need to know, here are these obstacles that stand in the way of why this stuff hasn't happened. And I think those are the clever people, sometimes from outside the industry and sometimes inside, who can go, hey, you know what? There's a technical fix to this. We can blow away that obstacle right now. And then you see the innovation coming from the solution.
Trevor Roberts said tours and activities is perhaps a segment that needs a little bit more of work done on it, for want of a better phrase. What would you say?
I would echo that. I think the vacation rental and sort of short-term rental market still has a long ways to go, despite everything that Airbnb and VRBO and HomeAway and everyone else is doing in those markets. It's still not a very mature market. And I think, that and tours and activities, a lot of it is that a lot of the work that needs to be done isn't sexy. It's grunt work. It's herding cats. Yeah. It's just getting in the trenches and doing the work.
Yeah. Interestingly, the tours and activities market at the B2C end had not had a lot of investment in it for a couple of years. And then within the space of 10 days, we get a huge investment round into Klook, and then we get another huge investment round last Friday into Get Your Guide. Yeah. Is that investors thinking that's a shiny new consumer-facing thing, or do you think they're thinking deep and saying, okay, this is a segment of the industry that needs a little bit more help from an investment perspective? Let's go with you, Matt.
Well, there's several things at play there. One is people are finally understanding demographics and realizing the growth of millennials and the generations thereafter means more and more spend in experiences and less spend on just big halls with marble and high ceilings. And that means you have to go where the money is going to go. And as the consumers say, give me more experiences, you now think, oh my God, it's not a digitized market.
Yeah.
And whoever manages to A, digitize it, and B, aggregate it, gets in an awesome position.
But the margins are really low because the unit cost is very, very low, isn't it?
But you don't want, it's the kind of market where you don't want to go acquire it one by one. You don't want to talk to Joni, the backpacker in Colombia, and sell her on coming on.
Right.
You want to create something that scales well enough in the cloud that Joni comes to you.
Okay. Yeah.
If you get enough Jonis to come to you, you reach critical mass. Now you have interesting margins.
Yeah.
A great example, Booking.com, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, in Europe, they basically had self-service onboarding, right? And that's what gave them a huge leap ahead. So they had to grow their sales force and things like that, but they didn't have to have somebody knocking on every single door, pitch them, go through a long, extended sales cycle.
As he's saying, that they're not sending a booking representative to a 5-bedroom place in southern Portugal. The 5-bedroom place is saying, oh my God, I better be on Booking, all right?
Somebody told me about that. Sounds like a good idea.
Okay, so forgetting the innovation stuff, I mean, people generally have their favorites that they like to hear speak at a conference, and it's inevitably the CEOs of the big companies. Trevor, we'll start with you. I mean, who would you cancel a meeting for to go and listen to speak in there?
Steve Coffer, probably.
Okay. Because of
well,
recent
it's been an
events.
interesting.
It's been an interesting day for Steve.
How are you feeling today? Are you
say the
okay?
least, yes. We'll be speaking to Steve tomorrow, so it'll be interesting to see what he's got to say. But
Yeah, no, I think that I think he's built a great business over the years, obviously, and it's been a rough few days for their stock price, and I'm interested to see how a smart guy like Steve is going to respond and react to that.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
Robert.
he'd certainly offer. I mean, I like to hear from all the really big guys. I mean, Expedia, Priceline actually lost 13% of its value today as well. So,
What does that tell you?
Pardon?
What does that tell you that two enormous listed companies are having a little bit of a rough patch in the last few days with their stock price?
I think they're starting to look at
the bigger picture, not just
I
a
think
micro
the
issue.
general reliance on pay-per-click and Google, where are the number of travelers coming from? So a lot of the groups, if you look at Expedia, look at Booking, they've acquired a lot of demand. And that's where and TripAdvisor certainly has a tremendous amount of traffic. But now that things are kind of stabilizing, they have higher year-over-year comps to compare against, that, where's this growth going to come from? And it really winds up being, how do you convert more? And that starts getting trickier for them.
And I mean, the market's getting more competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, between the pair of them, the Priceline Group and Expedia Inc., they spent, what was it, either there or thereabouts, close to $8 billion last year.
Yeah.
Do they have to maintain that as a business in order, because they've set themselves up for it now? We're talking about 2018.
Interesting. Why did they had a bad market day? Because the market, I think correctly, is beginning to think, yes, they do. That spend did not acquire them loyal customers that are going to come back for sure next year. Next year, another $8 billion, in fact, more.
Yeah.
Because every time they compete against each other, due to Google's business model, they're going to be outbidding each other.
Yeah.
This says all sorts of interesting things. What happens to the smaller guys? What happens to repcos?
Right.
Even what happens to hotel brands, right? Which is why you have Citizen M just giving up and saying, okay, Booking is going to fill our rooms. We're not even in that business. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Y'all outbid each other.
Okay.
Well, and you look at the total spend of a hotel, that they're sitting there with, I mean, for the hotel brands themselves, in the US, the average is about 12% of room revenue goes to the hotel brand. If it gets a booking through Booking.com, maybe that's another 15%. A couple of percent to the credit card for settlement. And if there's a management company, there's another 3%. So you're up over a third of their gross room revenue is going out in fees to all these parties. And that's not really sustainable for a hotel owner. And right now we are at peak occupancy, peak revenue per available rooms in the US and in other areas around the world. The next downturn can be very, very ugly because again, they've been moving to SaaS models of paying per room, things like that for technology. Those owners are going to feel some tremendous stress.
So Trevor, this has all got suddenly quite gloomy conversation here. I mean, is there any kind of glimpse of optimism for how this could probably shape out? We're talking about downturns, we're talking about their models almost being slightly under threat. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think their models are under pressure. I don't know if they're under threat. I mean, one of the dynamics that I personally suspect is driving this is also the suppliers, hoteliers and so forth, are much more savvy about driving the bookings directly as well. And I think, if you are a travel provider of any sort, that's good news because you are driving down that cost of sale if you can bring that customer to you directly.
If they can replace that traffic through their own marketing means at a lower cost of acquisition. And that's, again, it's one of these things where you look at the housing crisis, right? Or basically the global financial crisis of 2008 were because of all these bad loans. Well, that's because the models were built up on everything going up. When things turned down, oops, we didn't look at that. So it's going to be a concern.
Okay.
You asked who we want to hear from? A guy like Hafner from Kayak?
Yeah, of course, because he's entertaining.
He's entertaining.
Not only
Okay, so we've got to
entertaining.
wrap it up there, I'm afraid, guys. So thank you very much to Max, to Trevor, and to Robert Cole. All of our pundit shows are going to be on PhocusWire.com over the next few days. So thanks ever so much again, guys.
Thank
Enjoy the rest of your show. Thank you, everyone else.
Pleasure.